welcome everybody to our first podcast. It's a very special day with the coaches in the mouth. We've got Bray Cook here, Brent Bender, the mouth, and we've got a very special guest today, Buck James, six-time state champion. Lots of news coming out about you, Buck, here in the last 48 hours. Buck, it's funny, I'm getting phone calls on Monday and Tuesday about you making this move, and everybody's asking, why is he doing this? He's, won 53 games in a row at Bryant's, won 5 state championships, and me knowing you as well as I do, and knowing if you really follow your career, it makes perfect sense, and it made sense to me just on the fact of how you like challenges and things like that. Talk to us first about how fast everything happened, about the decision, and your thought process, because people don't understand how coaches think and how challenges have to be there. Talk to us a little bit about the decision, how everything went down.
Well, it's sort of like drinking water out of a fire hose, Jeff. It sort of happened late when Coach Pimple resigned. I thought to myself that was a really good job, a great opportunity. And that's really all I thought about it. We have a really good football team coming back at Bryant. We had 9 starters on offense and 6 on defense, and really thought we were going to have a good football team. And then the more I talked to the people in Conway, it just sort of made sense to me. I felt like I'd done everything I can do at Bryant, and winning games is fun, and being a champion is a lot of fun. But having challenges and waking up in the day and looking at a new horizon sometimes is interesting as well. And nothing against Bryant. I love the people of Bryant, the administration and kids, and the parents were very good to me. I feel blessed, but this is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for our family. It's an opportunity for me to try to do it one more time. And it happened really faster than I wanted it to. It happened a lot later than I wanted it to. There's a lot of times you don't want to go and take a job over and you can only bring one assistant coach, and you're really not going to get started in that job till late June, early July. And, the deck is stacked against us. I don't know how much one man can make a difference in just a few months, but I feel like that Coach Pimple's done a great job. They have a good staff, and I feel like it's an opportunity I couldn't pass up. And, I'm going to give it my all and see what happens, and hopefully we can get this done.
Well, I tell you what, Buck, and you're exactly right. Let's kind of go in kind of a back channel on just people don't understand, because they just see coaches take a job or this and that. But talk to us about the importance of Jennifer Major, your family, in those decisions, and how it's just not always about you; it's about them also. And that part of it. My dad coached for 40 years, and we picked up and moved in different jobs and different spots, but go a little background so our audience can understand, it's not just Buck James leaving going to Conway, it's your family and those decisions. Talk about how tough that is, and I'm not trying to get in your personal stuff here, but how those conversations go just any time that you've taken a job, elaborate a little bit about how that just not only affects you but affects your family.
Well, it's a big change for my family. That's no doubt about it. I have 3 sons, and Mackenzie is my oldest, who coaches in Hot Springs, but he came to Camden Fairview when I was there in the 8th grade, and he played for me through high school and was able to win a state championship there at Camden Fairview. And then Ty, my middle son, was with me when I came to Bryant, and he was going into the 9th grade, and it turned out pretty good for him, winning a state championship or 2 while he was here. And then my youngest son, Major, is going into the 9th grade as well, and he probably likes the game, loves the game a little bit more than the other guys do. He's apprehensive. He's been with these guys since they've been in the 1st grade, and they're going to have a really good junior high football team. And Bryant plays one junior high team where Conway plays two. And, the deck is stacked a little bit when Bryant plays junior high football games versus a lot of teams in our conference that have split squads. And, he's a little apprehensive about that, but, that's life. It's going to make him better. It's going to make him a tougher, mentally tougher kid. And then my wife, Jennifer, she's really in her last 5 to 7 years of her teaching career. She was a welding instructor at Bryant, and she gets a different type of job, and it really affects her retirement. Her last 5 years will be completely different than what her last 5 years would be at Bryant, and that makes a difference not only just now, but the rest of her life and teacher retirement. So there's a lot of factors there that really people don't understand. It's the transition that's going to make the biggest hurdle I have. It's not just going and taking the job at Conway and start coaching football. It's going to be the transition of our family trying to get a house ready to sell, move to Conway, try to get into another house, and then transition to a new coaching job and new school environment for our kids, and a new teaching environment for her. So there's a lot of pieces. It's not like college football where my agent negotiated all this stuff and then they have a moving van at my house and move it out, and the house is sold in a day or two, and I have a house bought in a day or two. It's nothing like that. And trust me, the transition might kill me, but nothing this hard is easy. And there's things in life that you have to work for. You have to put in the grind, and you have to change your surroundings to get better. And sometimes you have to take a step sideways to go forward. I think a lot of people, when Nick Saban left LSU and they had just won the national championship there and went to Alabama had tremendous potential, but what he did with it was something special. And, I hope and pray that maybe that's the sort of the way it turns out for us, and that Conway can be a special place, and, they can understand what I want to do and how I want to do it, and embrace the grind and it takes to be successful.
Well, and that's you nailed it. And that's a great analogy. Is people don't understand you're picking up those boxes. Somebody else isn't picking up the furniture for you in those transitions. Buck, we're going to go back a little bit, and I want to get into what makes up Buck James. As a football coach and as a man, and you kind of look back at your career. You've been fortunate to be around a lot of great coaches, and the Lord's put you in certain places at certain time. Let's go back, your days at Jefferson Prep and your playing days there. And, a lot of the guys that you played with there have gone on and been successful. Talk to me about, growing up in Pine Bluff and Jefferson Prep and how that experience, and then going to UAM and playing, for Carl Preston and Coach Barnes and some of those guys that, how that affected your philosophy as far as being a coach.
Well, that's a lot of talking for sure, but, I went to Jefferson Prep. It really, for people who don't remember, that was sort of Pulaski Academy back in the day. And, when I think about Pine Bluff and what Pine Bluff was not any different in the late 70s, early 80s when I was going to school than what Bryant or Conway's like right now. It's sort of a similar place. Great athletics, great football, basketball, baseball, great communities to live in. Was a powerhouse in all the sports, and it was a great place to grow up. And I had good coaches there. It was old school football, and I learned a lot from the guys that I went to school with, and the coaches and teachers. I had teachers that made an impression on me, and I knew in the 8th grade I wanted to be a football coach. And so I went to the University of Arkansas at Monticello, and I played for Harold Tilley the first year he was the coach at Pine Bluff for a short period of time, and went down to UAM. And then Tommy Barnes took that job, and probably the guy that made the biggest difference in my life was offensive line coach and Carl Preston. And I knew then I wanted to be a coach. I knew that what tough coaching was. I knew what was like to be in a tough program. It was blood and guts football back in those days. There wasn't no difference in Monday and Friday. I mean, it was full speed. We hit the sled every day. It was tough, hard-nosed football. I think one year as good as equipment was, I think I wore a size 13 shoe, and one of them was a 14, the other one was a 12. So we weren't well-funded. We didn't have the best equipment in the world. But what we had is some guys who really loved the game and taught us how to do the game right and respected the game, and really gave us a chance to grow a foundation. And, I was able to get a job there in town in Monticello, and I went to work for Johnny McMurray, who might be probably one of the
Hall of Famer. What a great coach.
Yeah, Hall of Famer. And he started that program when I got to Monticello, and I saw what tough love was. The guy had a vision. He was able to put it in place. He wasn't always very popular in how he did it and the way he did it, but he had a result. And, we had a couple runs there while he was there, a school that had never even been to the playoffs or won a playoff game. And we had a couple runs where we won 24 and 35 games in a 3-year span, and won a state championship in '94, and really sort of set the table for my coaching career, because I saw what a guy was able to do if he had a vision and he was willing to stick to it and willing to do it the hard way and do it the right way. And I've mirrored his plan pretty much verbatim. One thing he always told me is there's a reason why dinosaurs died. It's because they couldn't evolve. And he always talked about Don Shula and Tom Landry and, legendary coaches like that were able to coach from decade to decade to decade and still be relevant. And I think that's what I want to be able to do too. I'm actually working in my 5th decade as a football coach. And this is, an opportunity for me to see what Johnny McMurray did, what Carl Preston did, and take it to Conway, Arkansas, and do the things it takes. Try to run the offense and the defense that program needs to try to treat the coaches in a first-class manner. The thing I've prided myself on is I've had 8 assistant coaches that have become head coaches. And, you've got to have good coaches. You've got to have good players. You got to have a good system. And you got to be able to plan for failure. And you got to be able to have a plan for success. And those are really the things that I've, hung my hat on. I don't think I'm the smartest football coach in the world by any means. I know I have a plan. I know if that plan doesn't work, I'm going to know that I'm going to deviate from that plan. And, the thing that I learned under all those guys is the weight room comes first, discipline comes first. And if you can incorporate those two things with discipline and weight room, you have a chance to be successful.
No doubt. And, you mentioned Coach McMurray, and I remember that 94 state championship team, beat Magnolia. What was one of the best state championship games of all time. And you talk about consistency, and that's one thing when Buck James's name comes up, it's consistent winner and consistent program builder all the time. Well, Buck, you go on, then you go to Star City as a head coach and had a great run there, and I know you really like Star City a lot and in that community and had great success. Talk to us a little bit about your time at Star City.
Well, I got hired by a lady that was the first year superintendent, Rhonda Mulligan, and I got hired in June. It was late then too, and well, the one thing I learned is that I didn't know anything. I figured out very quick that what I knew and what I could do were two different things, and so I really had to cut my teeth. But she was fair to me. Our coaches, I had to hire a whole new staff almost immediately, and it was a tough takeover. We went 6-4 the first year, and then after that, in the next 4 years, we won 10 games a year and went to the third and fourth rounds of the playoffs. And we went to Thanksgiving games and things that never happened. And we won conference championship, probably the first outright conference championship in the school history. Went to, like I said, 3 consecutive quarterfinal games, and We, practiced at Thanksgiving, and you don't know how hard Thanksgiving is until you actually get there. And I learned all the trials and tribulations, and was able to get a job from there to Camden Fairview, and was able to, start it over again and do sort of the same thing. The first year was a tough year. I think we went 4-6, but we won 3 of our last 4 games, and then we went on to win 7 conference championships in the next 10 years. We were able to play in 3 different state championship games, and I know what it's like to get beat in a state championship game. We got beat in the last minute in 2 of them, and it was a great learning experience. And then we were able to win one in 2012, and so they said, well, you go and you win one, but you don't know how important winning one is until you found out how it feels to lose 2 of them. And so I learned a lot of lessons, and things that grow me and things that made me a better coach. And then when the transition happened at Bryant, I was ready for it. But between Camden Fairview and Bryant, I went to Little Rock Christian. And I tell people all the time, if I hadn't gone to Little Rock Christian, I couldn't have been the coach I was at Bryant. And you have to know how to coach all kids. And it's definitely a difference in coaching in South Arkansas than it is in the central part of the state. And those are things that you need to learn, and the things that they don't teach you in school and they don't teach you in coaching classes. Those are things that you have to learn with your boots on the ground and trying to do the things it takes to be successful. And my career has been built on trying, step-by-step process. I wasn't given a great job like Conway or Bryant coming out of the chutes. I was assistant junior high coach for 6 years. I was assistant coach for at the high school level for 6 years. I started at small schools. I won my way out of each one of those schools. I took a step backwards and went and been assistant coach just so I could get in a certain part of the state and make myself relevant. Got the job at Bryant. We went 80-9 while I was there and won 5 state championships. We had great players and great coaches. But everything that I've done to get me to this level has prepared me for a job like Conway.
There's no doubt. And, and the part that people don't get, and what really stood out to me, because I've known you for so long, is, a lot of times you see teams go to state championships and lose, and then, 2 years later they're irrelevant. And, what you having to battle back and do something at Camden, it's really never been done, watching that. And then obviously you go to Little Rock Christian, then you go to Bryant, and, they had successful, when Paul was there, they were successful, but didn't have a lot of success in the playoffs. And you've gone in there at Bryant and finishing up there, 5 state championships, 53 game winning streak. I mean, I think you've really separated yourself. You've done things in the biggest classification that no coach has ever done, and I don't know if anybody else will ever do it. Well, Buck, you're headed to Conway. Let me get into this a little bit, and we talked a little bit off air about this, is, getting in there late, what's your approach? Obviously you got to Bryant a little bit earlier and Camden Fairview. What is your approach? Obviously it's not like, you're going in where Conway's coming off a 2-8 season. Matter of fact, y'all, they lost in the semifinals last year to your Bryant team. What's your approach going into Conway as far as staff and getting your approach, your scheme in? Do you have time to do that? Are you more concentrated on the weight room, relationships? What is your approach going into right off the bat?
Well, the first thing I want to do is build relationships. I think that's what life's all about. I think you've got to have relationships with your coaches. You've got to have relationships with your players. I think I've got to go in there and prove that I care and that I want them to be successful. I want the coaches there to be successful. They all have families. They all have homes. They all have, things that are important to them away from football, and they live there in that community. I want them to be successful. I want them to be a part of what we're going to try to do. I'm going to try to learn what they do. I think it's impossible that I go in there and I try to put in my offense and my defense when I have, 9 or 10 other guys in the room that already know what they're doing and 150 kids that already know what they're doing. So, I'm not going to be able to go in there and just rewrite the plan and do that. All I want to do is try to find a way to make it better. I'm excited about learning what they know, what they can do, how they do it. And like you said, the program's not broke by any means. It's not that. All I want to do is take the next step, and how that looks is exactly what I think the blueprint should look like after I see everything. But first of all, I want those kids won't care how much I want to do things until they know how much I care about them. And the coaches are going to be the same way. I was an assistant coach for almost 14 years. I get what it takes to be a assistant coach. I'm not a guy that just fell out of the coaching basket and fell into a head coaching job. I spent 14 years as assistant coach, and I want them guys to understand I know what it's like to sit on that side of the desk. And there's some very talented men in that room, and I want them to have a chance to be successful. Are they the guys that I hired? Absolutely not. But they're the guys that can make this work, and that's what I want them to do. I want them to be successful in what we're trying to do. I want them to have input in what we're trying to do. I want them to try to be able to fix the things that they think needs fixing, and I want them to work on the things that we're good at and make them better. And that's what I told them. I've only got a chance to talk to them about 10 or 15 minutes. I talked to the players about 10 or 15 minutes. My first day on to get to see them will be this next week, and I'm not going to get to be there full time because I got to finish my obligation at Bryant. But what I want to do is, see what, to the month of July is see what needs to happen and what we're doing well and what we can do better. And then I want to try to capitalize on that. No way I can go in there and be a difference maker in 3 or 4 weeks and be able to do everything by myself. I've got to have help. I've got to have guys that are willing to cover my back, but I want some guys to know that I got their back and that I'm going to support them in everything they do, and we're going to do this together type mentality.
I think that's a great approach, and it's just interesting talking to different coaches. Some guys go in and revamp the whole thing, and I think you're going into a situation where they've been successful. They've been at the top, right there the last couple of years, and going in with that approach is great. Well, with Keith Fimple leaving and you headed to Springdale's AD, and then now you're going to Conway, it's just made a trickle-down effect in the 7A Central, and I want to talk about that a little bit. I think right now, it's, the proof's in the pudding. Over the last 6 years, the 7A Central has obviously dominated that division. Well, talk to me a little bit about all the movement. We got, your former assistant who just went to Jonesboro as head coach, has left and gone back to Bryant. Jonesboro's hired a new coach, and the assistant coach has been there, and just the trickle-down effect. And it's ironic, I was talking to Cabot head coach Scott Reed, who's actually been there 4 years. Right now, he's the longest tenured coach in the 7A Central in one spot, which is amazing. You've pretty much cleared everybody out there in that league, including myself, a few years ago. Talk to me about the league and all the coaching changes and how it's going to look different.
Well, it's the SEC of high school football. I honestly believe that. I mean, it's a tough league, and when I got in this league, North Little Rock was a very dominant team in this area, and they've been through 3 coaches, I think, since I've been at Bryant. Like you said, I was the longest tenured coach. Every job had changed over when I was at Bryant. So it's a tough league to coach in, and everybody wants success. And when you look at it in the Northwest, I mean, they're spending money hand over fist and building facilities and doing everything they can to have great football. Now you see it happening in the central part of the state, and people are upgrading their facilities, and they're spending money on it. And big-time high school football, you can't hide the money. If you've got stuff, kids and parents want to be where the stuff is. It's no different than building a church in your community and not having plan for your youth groups and stuff. And so you've got to have a plan for your kids, and you got to have chance for your kids to be successful. And you've got to have great academics. You've got to have safety. You've got to have, the choir and the band and all the quiz bowl and everything that it takes to have great school. And then you got to have great discipline in your school, and you got to have consistent discipline in your school. Then you got to have great athletics. And, I think the central part of the state probably fell back on that a little bit, after the 80s and sort of took some of that stuff for granted. And what it found out is people will move for activities and chances for their kids to be successful. And that's a proven fact. And if you don't have good stuff at your school, people aren't going to be there and stay very long. And I think the same thing happens with the coaches. If you're not successful very, very long, they're going to get somebody else in there to do the job, or that guy's going to leave and go somewhere else. And it is what it is. College football's trickling down to high school football the same way that NFL football, borrows and steals everything from high school coaches, and it all trickles down effect. And you see the same things happen at all levels of football. It's just that the 7A Central and the 7A West is a very, very competitive league. It's big schools with a lot of opportunities, and guys have got to be prepared and play well, or you're going to be, you're either going to have success or you're not. And there's a fine line between that. And winning games sometimes is not enough. It's about winning championships, and it's about being the best that you can be. And you have to be able to do those things to persevere in this job. And definitely the way social media is now, you're going to be judged every day on what your team does, not how you work, not how much you care, but how your team does it. And, that's sort of a sad commentary, for the coaching profession, but it's what you've done for me lately mentality. And nobody will care how many games you ever won, but the kids will always remember how you treated them. But you'll be judged on how many games you win and lose.
And I see this now, being out of it is, the league you're in and, the pressure that are on coaches, which, at the end of the day, coaches put more pressure on themselves than anybody else, as far as being successful and winning championships. And, it's a bottom line business, and you've been probably one of the very best at it, over the last 20 years, and there's no doubt about that. And Coach Cook's got a question for you here real quick before we get off here.
Hey, Coacher. Got one for you. So that was awesome. I appreciate you coming on, and I was over here taking some notes. I'll tell you what. But you're talking to a head coach who's been a head coach for, this will be my third year. And I have not had that experience of being that assistant for 14 years and doing the things that you've done that you talked about today. What advice would you have for me and my program?
Well, I think you got to study. I mean, I don't think you can watch enough film. I think guys nowadays, they want to, do the things that everybody else wants to do. I think the spread offense has killed high school football programs, but it's also built other programs. And I think you got to do what your kids can do. Sometimes you trying to do things that your kids can't do is detrimental to you and your career. At the end of the day, you've got to do what it takes for your kids to be successful, and you've got to find things that make your kids have a chance to be successful. If you don't have a quarterback who can throw, and you're out there trying to run a throwing offense, that's on you. If you're out there in an offense where you've got athletes and you can't spread the field and you're trying to run and get 3 yards in a cloud of dust, then that's on you as well. Back in the day, everybody had a sort of their niche on what their kids could do, and they did it. And then you played that system from the 7th through the 12th grade, and there was a lot of great coaches that were able to do that. Now people move, and they move for offenses, they move for defenses, they move for opportunities and scholarships. Scholarships are probably ruining high school football because there's only a small percentage of those guys that even get them, but everybody's chasing them. And I think keeping it real with your community, keeping it real with your kids, keeping it real with your parents, and doing what your kids can do to be successful and give them a chance to learn life skills and learn the things it takes to be successful as a husband, as a father, and as a community member. I think those are the values that probably mean more and important than anything coaching. It's just that you don't get credit for it. But like I said earlier, those kids will They will die for you if they know you care. They'll also die for you if they know that you've got an opportunity to give them a chance to have success. Study the game, be real with yourself, treat your coaches like they're important and that they have a say, and give them input and let those guys coach and give them an opportunity to be successful and grow in the game. And I think that's the small 3 or 4 secrets I can give any young coach is treat the game with respect and work at it as hard as you can. And when you leave to go home with your family, then give your family all the time that they need, because a lot of times this thing can eat you up if you allow it to. And, do your job, do it the best you can, and do it every single day.
That's awesome. Thanks, Coach.
Hey, Buck, we got the mouth here, Brent Bender. He's got a question for you also.
Congratulations to you, Coach James, on the new challenge at Conway. I've been a big fan of yours for years, ever since I met you in the Forest City Junior High library. You remember that day?
I do remember that.
What were you doing in the library, Brent? Good Lord.
I was a media assistant.
I got you.
I had the best job in the world. I roamed the halls in my wheelchair delivering tests all day, every day. It was great. I knew all the gossip going on in Forest City because the library was right there. But congratulate. And then I saw you that same year. You took the job at Camden, and I saw you at the state basketball tournament.
That's exactly right. I remember you well, Brent.
And then I saw you at the Bryant tournament when you had the state tournament there. And do not hold this against me. One of my best friends in the world was your college roommate, Sean Rochelle.
I'm going to see him today.
Well, I will be in section 117 at the baseball tournament myself. I'll be in my wheelchair, so y'all can look me up, come by and see me.
Yes, sir, will do.
Congratulations. Best of luck to you, Coach.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me on the show.
But, hey, Buck, we're really excited about you and going to Conway. We're going to do our weekly podcast. We'll have you back on as far as games of the week. You're going to really excited for you, really excited about our podcast starting off and you being our first exclusive interview. I think it's going to be a big hit for us, and we want to have you on again, and really appreciate you coming on.